Hello and welcome back to the Patient First Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bryan Laskin. And as always, I'm really excited that you're here. And I'm excited we have a great guest today, Holly Doherty, who's the founder and president and CEO of VIF, harnessing years of familiarity within the IEP, or that's an acronym that stands for Individualized Education Program, specialists, and all the challenges of being a parent combined with a decades-long career as a school and long-term care nurse. Holly's envisioned a tool that would enable her to record and track each daily life event that would in turn be available instantly to her support network. Holly saw this void in tools designed for family as a caregiver. For this reason, VIF was developed. Holly, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
We were talking just the previous conversation and then right before this podcast about the importance of what you're doing just in general for family caregivers, but then obviously this is a dental podcast. So could you take what you do and distill it down for the dental industry? Obviously there's leaders in the dental industry that listen to this podcast. There's a lot of dentists, a lot of people that run dental organizations that probably they've run into this, but they haven't really thought about it as deeply as you have.
Absolutely. Not only am I a nurse, but I'm also the mother of an adult son with autism. So I had years of experience of taking my son to the dentist and having meltdowns. And it probably took them 30 minutes to de-escalate him in the seat. And as dentists do not have time to de-escalate for 30 minutes. So I really thought, how do I approach with my son, whether it be a dentist or whether it be the doctor or the emergency department? How do I go in prepared? Because not only is he going to be heightened, but I think as a parent, you're also heightened. And when you're in that situation, you're just thinking, how do I calm him down? How do I answer questions? I developed this app where there's preset scripts. You go through, you can answer all of the questions on, of course, you have diagnoses and you have that type of thing. But the thing that caregivers need is, how do I approach this specific individual? Everyone is, I'm talking about autism, but it's any intellectual disability or a disability. But everybody is different to approach. Now, my son, if you wanted to de-escalate him, you would redirect him and say, Jack, do you like the WWE? He perseverates on the WWE. Let me tell you, immediately, if you say that, his thought is brought down. He's thinking about that, and you're able to help him as a patient in the chair. Now, we work with one of our clients is the Institute for Exceptional Care, and they use our app. And what they do is they use it in emergency departments. They've piloted it in New York through Northwell Health. And so if an individual with an intellectual disability goes into any of their emergency departments, they can automatically go to this registry, see the app, and understand, okay, this is how we de-escalate. Put a warm blanket on, lower the lights, the sounds, the smells. So it prepares them. It gives them all the information that they don't have. And this is something that even a patient with their app, if you're not connected to a registry yet, they can bring their app in and you can review it really quickly while they're getting situated in the seat. And when you go in, you're going to know exactly how to approach this individual.
It's great. It's funny because I've been working on my next book, and there's a chapter that is all about the importance of personalizing care to patients. And I guess I hadn't really thought about it before. I always think of adults as basically children that can hide it well, right? For example, in dentistry, 60 to 80% of adults in the US have pretty high dental anxiety. But with adults with special needs, autism, they're not going to be able to hide it as well, right? And so really, I think what you're doing, frankly, could be expanded to any human being, but you're right. It's a kind of for the caregiver in dentistry, it's going to become a showstopper, which I remember there was one time I was talking with just the assistant who worked for the most productive dentist I've ever known. And he's kind of a famous guy, but infamous maybe. But he was so productive. And I remember I'm like, what does he do if he goes in the room and the patient's crying? And he said he throws everything on the floor, walks out and tells me when come back when they're calmed down. Like, probably not the best way to deal with. So yeah, you're literally handing the tools over how to calm patients down.
Exactly.
And I previously had talked about how you even have the ability to actually record somebody's voice too, so that they can hear it. So could you talk a little bit about, because I think it's really an impressive, I think it sounds like to slow down and personalize the care for patients sounds like you're slowing down, but you're actually, when you create uh, a more comfortable atmosphere, you're actually going to be able to get the job done. And so it's better for everybody. So I'm sorry, I wanted you, could you describe some of the tools like the one where you can
Yeah. So
record?
we have a feature called Comforting Me. And say the parent isn't with your patient, maybe an aide or someone else brought the patient in to see you. And you have no idea that this person is tactile defensive. As nurses and doctors and dentists, we're very tactile, right? You have to touch your patient. And in the app, the parent or the primary caregiver has the ability to go in and leave a comforting message so that if that patient is heightened, you can push it and they can hear that voice. And that parent is giving the very familiar instructions. Okay, calm down. This is what we do. And it's just another tool. But boy, it has worked for us several times with many of our users, right? And not only can you leave a comforting message, but in that same comforting me section of the app, say there's comforting music that they enjoy, or there's something visually, well, you can actually put it in YouTube right in there. So you can play it for your patient right there. So whatever it is that brings them down, you've got it right there, easily accessible in the app. Now, with most of our clients, though, it's not using the app. The patient uses the app, but we develop a registry for that organization so that their patient is in the registry, and if you're using some type of electronic medical record, the hospitals use Epic and that type of thing, but you can create your own registry, and then you can go to your patient and you could also find all of the information right there. So yeah, it's really important to understand what are the measures to comfort this patient. And I'll tell you what, one of the things that has happened historically is sedation. People, if you it was really heightened and you think uncontrollable, boy, we've sedated people. And that's just such a horrible thing. We've got to get away from those type of medical restraints so that with this, you have the ability to understand, okay, I need to wait and pause and let this person's brain collect their thoughts. And you give them that little bit of a pause, and then they breathe, and you can get right back into whatever procedure you happen to be doing.
If you were running let's say 10 dental clinics, and you were thinking, boy, sounds like an opportunity for us to elevate our care or reach out to a segment of the population that we don't focus on today and really start implementing this. How would you get started?
Well, our what we've done is we have created a technology that includes everything. And then when we get a customer, we bring it down and we customize it specifically for that type of organization so that the one that's being used in emergency departments is very scaled down, and it's got 3 scripts, and that's the information you need. Because really, as you have 2 minutes to look at a chart, right? You don't have a whole half hour to figure out who this person is. So we actually customize it for whatever our clients' needs are so that it's quick, but you're getting the information that isn't available anywhere else in any other type of chart.
Great. Could you talk a little bit more about because you mentioned the Institute for Exceptional Care and how they're working, particularly obviously in dentistry, to calm patients down.
Yes, they are. And they're really working for you dentists to get Medicare, Medicaid, and reimbursement available. So they work with Delta Dental right now, and Delta Dental has new codes in certain regions, I think the upper Midwest, where they offer people, oh, okay, no, they
That's where
offer,
I had to start it.
okay,
Come on. Yeah. In
they offer
fact, I have a
people,
call with Delta next week, so I can
and then
ask them about it.
there you go. People with intellectual disabilities, they offer them, first of all, more frequent cleanings because they need it. People with Down syndrome and other types of things, they
Mhm.
absolutely need more cleanings. But they also, Delta Dental also offers preparation visits, which I think is the coolest thing ever. If you can bring, especially a young child who's coming up and isn't familiar with a dentist, you can offer them and you'll be reimbursed for a preparation visit. Have them come in, you sit in the chair. But one of the other things that is very costly to dental practices is infrastructure investments. If you're going to have someone with autism who can't stand light, then you may need to be able to install dimmable lights. Those things are very expensive. So the insurance companies are looking at that type of thing to be able to reimburse dentists. And I am not the expert. The Institute for Exceptional Care is, but I would recommend anybody just Googling them and look at their site. I will also say in 2023, there was a bill introduced called the Heads Up Act. And this is authorized through the Department of Health and Human Services, and they will award grants to health centers, including dental practices, to service and provide money to have patients with intellectual disabilities and to do these types of things that you need to create the atmosphere. Now, it is difficult in obviously in emergency departments and in dentistry because you've got drills that make a certain noise and there are certain smells and those type of things are for someone with sensory issues. However, if they can come in for that preparation visit and they understand that this is what's going to happen, it really makes all the difference in the world in caring for that person.
Great tips. I would recommend that people hit the little rewind button a minute and go listen to the last segment that you just talked about. Lots of great stuff there. So yeah, so the Heads Up Act, I would look up the Institute for Exceptional Care. We'll put links in the show notes for both of those, in addition, obviously, to VIF Care. Thank you so much, Holly, for being on the podcast. Where can people go to find out more information about what you're doing?
Thank you so much. Our website is www.vifcare.com. And we schedule every Tuesday, we schedule Zoom sessions for people who just want an introductory to go through the app to look at it. So anyone can contact us there and we'd be happy to do it.
I've been spelling it out. So obviously VIFCare is spelled VIFCARE.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely check it out. I think this is such a huge need. And like you say in your bio, a void in healthcare in general, but I think very pronounced in dentistry. So I would urge everybody to check out VIFCare and elevate the care for patients that really need it. Obviously, my first book, The Patient First Manifesto, which this podcast is based on, is all about how do we look at dentistry from the perspective of our patients, because not only is that better for care, but it makes really the way that grow your practices in the dentistry 3.0 environment. This is a major part that you could probably apply to a lot of aspects of your practice. So, Holly, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Brian. I appreciate it.